actually wrote a speech. I usually just get up and wing it, and this time it just kind of came to me, so I wrote it. And I will try very desperately not to read it to you. This is 5 things I wish I'd known before starting my career. I didn't know I was going to have a career. That was probably the first thing I should have learned, but I didn't. So I want to write. For as long as I can remember, ideas and stories have invaded my body and attacked it, and I always thought that was bizcochitos, but come to find out this is all ideas and stories. And they scream to get out. They want to be heard. But where was the key to that door? So many years ago, I sat right where you are, not knowing exactly why I was here, but knowing it was where I needed to be. So I kept coming to SouthWest Writers. I would go home and write. I would go to classes, workshops, more SouthWest Writers meetings. I would meet everybody I could find. I wrote at home. And then there was an epiphany. And it was in this very room, and I was sitting right about where Jean Shannon is sitting. Jean's right over there. And it's not her fault. But I was sitting right over there. And a former member of ours, Jeffrey Poston, for those of you who've been around long enough, remember Jeffrey, mentioned, he stood up here where I am, and he had this talk going on, and where it hit me was, he said, the time has come for many of you to make a decision to choose a writing path. And I thought, a writing path? He says, some of you can write for church newsletters, which is fine. Or you can see your name in print. And it was like a bolt of lightning. You know, one of those arrows that goes thwang, right in my forehead. I sat there that day dumbfounded and probably with my mouth open, which is not my best feature. And I thought, you know, I can either write for the various organizations I belong to, write in their newsletters, and I was already doing that, or I could use my time and skills to make a name for myself. So it was a duh moment, and I chose the latter. I decided to make a name for myself. So I have to thank you, Jeffrey, wherever you are. Hopefully he's not dead. You know, what? Okay, he's still on Facebook. All right, good. A sign of life. So at that moment, I knew my time honing whatever skills I had, and I would write, and to keep my eye on the prize, to be successful. That's where I kind of fell down. I didn't know what successful was. But I used to think success was getting a book into the grocery store. You know, you go to the grocery store and there's somebody's book there. I'm thinking, oh, man, if I could just do that, that would be so cool. And I think we have 1 or 2 people today in this room who have been there. I've talked to a couple of them and they went, oh, no, that's not where I want my book. I'm going, I do. Take mine. So when starting, it hasn't happened yet, but that's one of my goals is to be in the grocery store. All right, so when starting out, after the lightning struck, my goal was to have an article in New Mexico Magazine and to have a book on rodeo published. Along came a day back around 2005, and I did some quick math on that and just shuddered, when I literally had contracts for a New Mexico Magazine story and a book about rodeo in my hand. And I was in my pajamas. So that meant I was really and truly an honest-to-goodness professional writer. Which leads me to the first thing that I should have known or truly listened to. Writing is a business. How many times have you heard this? Has everybody heard this? Yeah. How many times? A couple hundred. Did I listen? No, not at all. It represented the business side of being creative. Tracking expenses, reporting taxes, double So what do you mean I have to put expenses in some kind of order? Okay, so I bought a ream of paper for my printer, and what do you mean it may or may not be tax deductible? What the heck is tax deductible anyway? Wait, you mean money I spend on things such as ink, pens, paper maps, gas, books can be deducted on my taxes if I use them to write for pay? Way cool. When I learned that, I did a happy dance. Woohoo! I'm in the money. Yeah. So, oh wait. You mean I'm supposed to pay gross receipts tax? Fill out a CRS form to the state? In addition to my annual state tax? In addition? What? Well, I found that really stupid and way inconvenient. Besides, no one I knew paid it. Nobody had ever said anything about it. And I argued with my husband, who is also a freelancer. He does film and video. I told him I was special, and the state was crazy and way stupid if they thought I paid taxes on my meager earnings from book signings. Okay, and maybe one or two small articles that I'd written, but after all, combined it was less than $200 or $300. What's the big deal? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Yeah. Fast forward. Got a nice letter in the mail one day from the state tax department. Yep. Not only did I owe back taxes, but they charged a substantial penalty, and oh yes, did I mention interest? Big Brother had finally found me. What I hated most was the smug look on my husband's face and the mumbled, "I told you so." He paid his tax every 6 months and made a big deal out of, here it is going to the mailbox, and I'm over here going, oh, mine isn't. Yeah, well, this time mine was in the mail before his. Huh. But in all fairness, he did go with me to the tax department and sat there and just kind of grinned, that Cheshire cat grin. Okay, so it turns out writing is a business. And yes, you have to track everything you spend and receive. Good news, once you set up a system, it is really pretty easy. So I've listed a couple of things here that work. Mileage. On a little piece of paper in my car, I write down date, place, and mileage for everything and anything remotely resembling writing. Go to the library for research, to these meetings, driving out for research, to book signings, and I include gas. Food and hotels. Every time you meet your writing friends for critiquing a story and there's food involved, such as at Applebee's, your meal is tax deductible. Well, half of it is. If you travel out of town for a convention, which the fees are deductible, the meals and hotel are also deductible. Book signing expenses, almost everything is deductible. The cost of your books, if you have to supply them, advertising, posters, the coffee you had, even the pen you used to sign your name, which I think is a cool deal. Supplies, your new writing desk, your chair, your computer, your printer, yep, all tax deductible. The education, you're taking a workshop, such as this afternoon, or any class to help you write better and get published is deductible. Marketing, setting up a website, buying signs from Vistaprints, name badges, business cards, all that's deductible. The takeaway is writing, oh, I hate to say this, is a business. Keep track of your expenses. A trick is to keep your receipts. I've learned that one. I'm in no way a tax consultant or even close to an expert, so find one who is. I know Fred Aiken in the back does a lot of writing tax workshops and things like that. So check with Fred, please.
He has one coming up in April?
He has one coming up in April. Please don't take my word for it. Don't come back to me next year and say, well, you know, you said, and they brought the handcuffs, so. But I'm telling you what I have learned. So the other half of being a business is you need to treat it like one, and that's what I have learned. And I'm telling you all this because of the mistakes that I've made, that one of us making these mistakes, we don't have to have 100 other people make them also. Oh, so after the giddiness wears off of being published, then it comes down to your next writing project. Okay, you still have to find someone to publish it if you're not doing it yourself. And you'll find, so you spend your time writing queries and researching and looking at magazines and other books as competition and what's going on out there. So what you do is whenever you go out in public, you dress like the successful writer you are. Dress in your genre. And I'm so glad Gail Rubin was here today, but she's not dressed quite like she should be.
Yes, look at that. Skull and crossbone necklace.
Oh, the skull and crossbone necklace. You dress in your genre. If you haven't figured it out already, I write Westerns and anything Western related. That's my platform. I wear boots. And not only because I like wearing boots, I have 6 pairs of cowboy boots at home. You look at a pair of cowboy boots and you go, oh, cowboy. I have vests, I have 9 cowboy hats, I counted. Yeah, that part's kind of embarrassing, and I've worn all of them. You find something that relates to your genre. Like Gail is usually a walking poster of what she writes. She has the skull and crossbones. She always, she's got the way cool cowboy boots. She really does it up right. Hot air balloons. If you write a mystery set in Albuquerque or memoir set in Albuquerque, put hot air balloons on there. Everybody knows us from hot air balloons, unless you want to do something with Breaking Bad. And I kind of think you need special permission to use those images, but I'm just saying. So find something that screams your platform. If you're writing a memoir, there was a woman that used to come to SouthWest Writers, and I don't know what's happened to her. I love this title. It was "And We Ate the Leopard." It was a terrific title. It was a memoir about when she lived in Africa. And so what she did, she would wear a leopard print scarf, or she had a hat and a handbag. I mean, she sometimes kind of overdid it, but you knew exactly what she wrote, what she represented. If you write mysteries, why not wear one of those cool little, Sherlock Holmes hats or something like that? You can find something that works for you. And if you can't find anything that works for you, find something that says that you're a writer. They're everywhere. Buy a pen of a pen. That was hard for me to write because I kept spelling it wrong. A pen of a pen. Because you see them all the time, the quill. Think hats, scarves, ties. And then the other thing, when you go out in public, you always take business cards. And I handed mine out today. And if you didn't get one, my apologies. I certainly can have more for you. I take mine to parties. I do. And my goal is to hand out at least one at every party. And so far, I have. Because people, they start talking, they go, oh, I see your boots, your hat, your scarf, your guns, your this. I didn't bring my gun today, I'm sorry. And you say, oh, well, that's because I'm a writer. And you say, oh, what do you write? Boom, here's my card. You can do that. I also take a couple of my books. So far, most of the parties, I don't sell my books at the parties, but I have sold my books out of the trunk of my car in a motel in Arizona. And that just feels dirty. Yeah. And I keep telling myself a sale is a sale is a sale. All right, which leads me to number 2, make contacts. Not the kind you stick in your eye. This is the time, once you have something to sell, that you have to come out of your shell. Sorry. It's easier for some of us than others, but in today's world, a reclusive writer is forgotten unless you're really important. And I don't see any reclusive writers in here today. No, because we're all not that important. I can think of a couple. Okay, so back in 1999, so here I'm talking about making contacts. Back in 1999, I attended one of SouthWest Writers' 3-day conventions. We don't have those anymore for a multitude of reasons, but I was incredibly shy. I don't know that I really had anything to show anybody. I was writing, but I wasn't, I wanted to reach out, but I wasn't sure. And I knew I needed an agent. I didn't have anything to give them, and I didn't really know what an agent was or did, but I needed one. Because that's what everybody had said. You need an agent. Okay, great, let me get one. Yeah, I'll go down to Walgreens over here and get one off the shelf. I'll go to this convention and I'll pick a couple up. Okay, what do I know, right? I'm new. So I started talking to, or tried to, there were over 400 people at this convention. And I looked for people that had agent written on their shirt, or what I thought more likely was agent neon sign over their head. Because I figured, everybody wants one, so they've got to be really popular. Well, I didn't find anybody. I didn't know where to look, I didn't know who to ask. And like I said, if I had found one, I don't think I would have known what to do with one. So I gathered up all my courage, and I spoke with Matt Braun. If some of you know him, who he passed away not a couple years ago. He's was a well-published Western writer who was giving a workshop there. And I figured, him being a Western writer, we wrote for the same brand. He's going to give me insider information. This is going to be great. So I will never, ever forget this conversation, and this is why I'm telling you this. It thoroughly embarrasses me, but I'm telling you anyway so that you don't have to make the same mistake. So I go up to Mr. Braun, and I said, hi, and he says, are you enjoying the convention so far? I mean, he's speaking to me, and I'm going, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, step one. So I said, yes, but Mr. Braun, I'm interested in getting an agent. And I haven't seen any yet, and I really hadn't. He says, did you look? His tone was one of exasperation as he glanced out of the room at all the people passing by, and I'm sure a couple agents had walked past. And I said, yes, but I don't know where they are. He shook his head, gave me a long dismissive sigh, turned his back and walked away. I've not been a big fan of his since then. But now that I understand conferences, I can find agents. And they do have, a lot of them do have agent written on their shirt somewhere. But I could have died, yes. I never did find an agent. I have never yet found an agent. I got close one day, speaking of agents, I got close one day at a Western Writers Convention. And I sat down and talked to him about all the inroads I had made, and I had 3 different publishers, and I had all sorts of blah, 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 blah. And he says, oh, okay. And I said, but I really need an agent, thinking he was going to make me rich and famous. And I got an email from him a couple days later, and he says, you've already done all of the work that I would do for you, so no. So I gave up trying. I'm done. But making contacts are vital, but they're tough. You've got to market yourself, because in this day and age, no one else will. Even the people with these bigger publishers, the New York publishers, they market themselves. Now, I'm not suggesting you become like an Amway salesman, because we know how that goes. But be willing to tell people you're a writer. For example, you're in the checkout, you're in your writing duds, you're at the grocery store in the checkout line, and you've got a couple people ahead of you. Well, pick up that magazine that's right there and flip through it. And then turn to the person behind you and go, I'm a writer too. So what's that going to get you? Either an eye roll and then extra room behind you, or somebody's going to say, and this happens often, I'm a writer too. And it's like, oh. Or somebody will say, oh, really, what do you write? That's what you want to have happen. So you kind of, help them on their path to enlightenment that you're there. One time, this is a true story, I autographed a copy of New Mexico magazine for my mail carrier. We were standing at my mailbox, and she delivered my New Mexico magazine that I just happened to have an article in, and I said, ooh, I have an article in here. She goes, really? So I found it. The next day she came with her own copy, and I autographed it for her. So talk to everybody. And when you're wearing your genre icons, they are terrific conversation starters. I had a t-shirt I bought last year in Ireland that simply says, Ireland. But I can't tell you how many people have commented on it. And within the next few weeks, I'm going to be starting or working on writing a book about my immigrant relatives coming from Ireland. And you can bet, guess what I'm going to be wearing? A lot. But when I went to Ireland, I promised myself I was not going to buy any t-shirts. I bought one, thank goodness, but I only have that one. So I'm hoping I can write this pretty quickly because my shirt's going to wear out. But don't be afraid to get noticed and talked about. That sells books and or get you magazines assignments. Just do it politely. Go to as many workshops, classes, and conference conventions as you can afford. Hand out your business cards that scream you're a writer. On your card, have only that you're a writer. Leave off your other credentials. Don't tell them that you're also a lawyer or a civil engineer or something like that. These are cheap. I'm sorry, inexpensive. These are inexpensive. They run about a penny a piece. I get mine at Vistaprint. Thank you. When you're in a writing situation, hand out the card that says you're a writer and say on there somehow that you're a writer. I threw away a card just the other day that had somebody's name and phone number. I don't remember that person. I don't know where I got it, and heaven forbid, I don't know who they are. So you don't want your card to be thrown away. And you don't also want to know where your card goes when you give it out. You just kind of let it be like a butterfly. It goes free because you really don't want to know. Leave off your home address because, like the butterfly, you don't know where this is going to go. You don't want somebody visiting you in the middle of the night. And if they need to send you a check, they will ask for your address. Put contact information on here, whatever you would like to have, but make sure that you put on there that you're a writer. I did that. I spelled it out in big letters, writer, speaker, gunfighter on mine. I was with New Mexico Gunfighters Association for 10 years. I'm still a member. I just don't go shoot anybody anymore. And that gets a lot of comment. And a lot of people will say, oh, you're a gunfighter. Kill any sheriffs lately? I hear that a lot. And I can honestly say not in the last year. So you meet as many people as you can. Try to remember names. That's really important. And that's why name badges are super, uber, duper critical. Every time I conduct an interview or research or teach a class, give a talk, appear in public, other than the grocery store. Because then people ask where things are. I've learned. I always wear my name, and I can tell people where bathrooms are really well. You know. Wear your name badge because we are visual learners. And you can tell your name to somebody 10 times and they'll go, what, Fred? What did you say? What, Dredd? You're what? Huh? Jim? Gene? What? Just, you know, name badges work well. You can get them up at Staples, Office Depot, I think, is still around, or whichever one of the offices are around. You can get these. They're not expensive. I don't do anything that's expensive. Also, you can also carry around a clipboard because that makes you look real official. Name badge, clipboard, you're in. The next thing I learned was that book covers matter. It flies in the face of the old adage, don't judge a book by its cover, but what do? Book covers matter. We as writers like to think it's the words and how we put them together that matters, and it is. If your book isn't well written, no matter how pretty and appropriate the cover is, your next book won't sell. So when first starting out, here again is what I learned and the mistake I made. I self-published my first 2 novels. The covers came out exactly how I pictured, and I was over the moon with pride. And here's the first one, and I don't have a copy of it to put up on the board. This was exactly what I wanted. And then reality struck. It didn't look professional. It reeked of amateurism. But I still loved them. I can't find the second book. I just have the first one. But I still love them, and in many ways I still do. They had all the necessary ingredients. They had the title. My name was spelled correctly. And the genre was easy to discern, I thought. But it turns out it wasn't. So what was missing? They simply looked like they'd had a photographer take some pictures of friends of mine posing. Guess what? The one on the left is my son-in-law. The one on the right is his best friend. Yeah, this was taken down at Fort Selden, down in Las Cruces. So, my first traditional publisher taught me a lot about covers. His mantra was, if the writer doesn't like the cover, he won't try to sell the book. And I think he's right. If you look at the cover and go, you're not going to sell your book. He's always listened to my opinions. I don't have that editor, publisher anymore, but he always listened to my opinions. And I discovered at that point that books were truly a joint effort. The second thing I learned from him was to put some money into professionally designed covers and back covers. You hire a good graphic artist. And that's this book right here. This is the same book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This one's published by Ex Libris, and this one is published by La Frontera Publishing. So what he did was he licensed Western art from Frank McCarthy. This one is a Frank McCarthy, and the other one I think is Turpinine. I don't know much about Western art, but I know what I like. So he spent about $500 to license this cover, this artwork. And then he probably spent another $500 or so on the graphic artist. And I think it came out pretty nice, and I think it's well worth it, especially because it didn't come out of my pocket. Which, with this other book, it did come out of my pocket. So a couple years back, I was with several other authors, and our books were all set out like they should be for this book signing event. And one man approached my table and said, and what I said was the usual, hi, I write Westerns. And he said, yeah, I can tell by the covers. And I thought, ching, it's a confirmation nod. Yep. It gets kind of old with Westerns. You know, you have a cowboy with a gun on a horse, a cactus or two helps, but it sells the genre. And you don't ever want somebody coming up to you and go, what is it you write? What? I can't really tell. Well, you go, well, duh. And that's where this one didn't work out so well. The title of it was The Quest, and I think I'm the only person in America who liked the title. Even my mother did not like the title. I thought it was perfect because the main character goes on a quest to get back his stolen heirloom watch. But it doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you that on this cover. There's nothing exciting about this. So I've learned that. And a third thing that I've learned about covers that I'm going to pass on to you is the color orange. Orange captures attention. Look at this one. Captures attention. And I learned that from a big-time New York publisher, so I'm not making it up because it has orange on this cover. In my experience, since women tend to be the majority of book buyers, the lighter colors sell more quickly. However, I've had a couple occasions where they will grab darker colored ones and go, oh, this is just what I wanted. But I do a lot of book signings, a lot. I'm out there a lot. And I have had people, this is the first of the 3 that I've had from this particular publisher. And the first and the third one are lighter colored. And I've had people just take the first 2. The first and the third. And I'm going, but this guy over here, he's kind of in the middle, and he's so sad because you're gonna buy just 2? That happens. On occasion, it's the tear that sometimes rolls down my cheek when they get, they'll buy the other book. We have to learn that, crying on demand. And then the other thing I've learned is that the back copy is just as important as what goes on the cover. Because what happens is, people will pick up a book, and they'll look at the cover and go, oh, that's nice. And then they turn it over, and they read what's on the back. Well, you don't have to have a synopsis on the back like I did with The Quest. I have a synopsis. I don't give away what happens completely at the very end if he gets the girl or not, but there's not a lot of excitement on the back. And the other thing I've learned too, and I've done this several times, is somebody's reading the back of my book and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to tell them how exciting it is to buy my book and they're going to want to buy it. Well, they're reading. They don't want to hear from me. They want to read. So the hardest thing is to sit there or stand there and go, okay, hurry up and read. Oh, so you read the back. Great. So the difference, listening to this, it says, when his stagecoach is robbed, guard James Colton loses more than just his watch. All right, cool enough. But this one, attacked by outlaws, charged with a corrupt sheriff's murder, the Coltons fight for justice. Yeah. So think about your back cover. But don't give away the end. Okay, the next one, secondary characters, and somebody has asked me to talk about this, and I'm going to. Your secondary characters can take over your novel, so how do you keep them tame? How do you keep them in line? The secondary characters are your pesky people or animals who have a place in your story, but they're not the main characters. And how important are they anyway, and how fleshed out should they be? Over the years, I've learned about the hero's journey. How many of you know about the hero's journey? Okay, good. Not everybody. I'm just going to zip through it. Because the secondary characters play important roles. The first one's the hero. He's your main character. The hero is the audience's personal tour guide on the adventure that is your story. He's the member, or she, he is the person in your book who the audience can relate to, hopefully. And they want to enter the world with him or her. For example, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. She was definitely the hero. You can tell the hero, and I may mention this later, the hero is always the person who does the most changing. So, next person up, secondary character, is a mentor. The hero has to learn how to survive in the new world incredibly fast, so the mentor appears in order to give him a fighting chance. The mentor will describe how the new world operates and instruct the hero in using any innate abilities he possesses. The mentor will also gift the hero with equipment, because a level 1 hero never has any decent weapons or armor. Think of Glinda the Good Witch. The ally is a hero. The hero will have some great challenges ahead, too great for one person to face alone. He'll need someone to distract the guards, hack into the mainframe, or carry his gear. Plus, the journey could get a little dull with only one character. Think about Tin Man and Wizard of Oz. The Herald. The Herald appears near the beginning to announce the need for change in the hero's life. They are the catalyst that sets the whole adventure in motion. The invitation to the ball in Cinderella. R2-D2 in Star Wars. The tornado in Wizard of Oz. You won't have all of these characters in your book, but you should have some of them. The trickster adds fun and humor to the story when times are gloomy or emotionally tense. The trickster gives the audience a welcome break. The trickster sometimes has another job, changing the status quo. The good trickster offers an outside perspective and opens up important questions, such as Dobby in Harry Potter. Shapeshifter is one of my favorite characters. Shapeshifter blurs the line between ally and enemy. Often they begin as an ally, then betray the hero at a critical moment, of course. Other times their loyalty is in question as they waver back and forth. Regardless, they provide a tantalizing combination of appeal and possible danger. These are the people such as two-timing wives and husbands and double agents. Guardians and gatekeepers, we have them everywhere. The guardian or the gatekeeper is exactly what it says. It tests the hero before they face great challenges. They are the ones that don't let the hero accomplish what he wants easily. The message is clear: go home and forget your quest. The message for the audience is, this way lies danger. And then the hero must prove his worth by answering a riddle, sneaking past, defeating the guardian in combat. The gatekeeper, the person who tries to keep your hero from getting what he wants, is the secretary who screens the calls or the visitors when you're standing there. I'm sorry, he's not there. TSA at the airport. You're not, talk about gatekeepers, literally. The monkey soldier at the bridge in Wizard of Oz, etc. Every story has one. Now the shadows are the villains in the story. They exist to create threat and conflict and to give the hero something to struggle against, because if he didn't struggle, you would not have a story. Like many of the other archetypes, shadows do not have to be characters specifically. The dark side of the Force is just as much a shadow as Darth Vader is for Luke. So how do you keep these characters under control and not let them take over the story? Because sometimes they try to. You clip their wings. You just say, no, you can't do that now. Or, better yet, promise them a book of their own. Someone asked me the other day if secondary characters were important and how much do you write about them? What I've learned is that every character who comes on stage is important, and they all have backstory. They all want something. Whether it's to walk across the street or borrow money from the hero. As the writer, you need to know your characters and what makes them tick. And then I found as I write, the backstory of these characters finally come out for some of them. But it takes a lot of time, and it would have been so much easier if I had spent a few moments and really thought about these characters. And the story may even have taken a different turn, because I don't outline. I can't. I've tried it. It just doesn't work. I've discovered that my characters are a lot more interesting than I am, and so I listen to them. And sometimes my secondary characters just appear. They plop onto the page. I've had a couple, I had one plop onto my keyboard, which was really odd. I'm not making that up, and I'm not crazy quite yet. But yeah, it was a woman came and stood on my keyboard. Of course, back in the 1860s. Generally, my characters sit on my shoulder and talk to me. It's like, shut up, shut up. What? Shut up. But you guys know that, because I've talked to a lot of you, and you're all going, yeah. So I think that the trick to making sure that your secondary characters remember that they're secondary and they're not the hero is never forget whose story it is. It's your hero's story. It's his journey. We build strong secondary characters, and they want to come take over, but you can't let them. Keep in mind whose story it is. One person who belongs to this group, I don't see her today, what she does is she cuts out pictures of real people who resemble her or remind her of her characters, and then she puts them around her desk. What I've discovered is my secondary characters like to vie for attention. They're all like a bunch of 4-year-olds going, oh me, oh me, oh me, pick me, I'm ever so smart. Well, yeah, I choose one. I'll take you. One thing I've learned also is that as I write, and still to this day, I like to write with partners and pairs. I like to write 2 people. And when I first started out, especially like with this book and the second one, I had 2 brothers. And somebody would ask me, well, who's the hero? Well, they both are. They're both. No. Turns out one is the hero and one is another main character. but there's only one that does the most changing. So let's go to number 5 here real quick. So the 5th thing I have learned, and this has been over a number of years, like I said, my first book came out around 2005, so I'm not going to do the math. You know, you probably have been told this, write what you know, and I certainly have been told it about 1,000 times. And so I took that to mean literally write what my day job was, and I used to teach public school. No way was I going to spend all day arguing with hormonally charged teenagers and then come home and write about it. I had a couple at home. I didn't need to write about that too. So, no way. So, but I think it should not be write what you know, but I think it should be write from the heart. What's in your heart. Paying attention to your heart, because after all, that's what you need to listen to, not your head, when writing what you love. Do you love the ocean? Why not set your story in the South Pacific? How different would it be if you moved it to Manhattan? On the other hand, if you know about, say, gardening and want to have a gardener as a hero or as a secondary character, why not? Bring in what you know, but what you love, and write from the heart. And I've been telling people for a long time, if you can feel it, you can write it. I had one of those epiphanies again, where one time I was telling some people I used to teach with, is, oh yeah, you know, you write, you have your commas and your full sentences and your run-on sentences, and you have da-da-da-da-da. And I said, but you know, the thing is, you write from your heart. And it was at that moment when I was talking to somebody over pizza, I went, you know, that's right. You write from in here. And when you can feel your characters come alive on the page. So here's what, so I'm going to leave you with this. Here's what happened to me about writing what you feel. When I was young, I grew up in southern New Mexico, in Las Cruces. I rode horses and I did everything cowboy. I was, you know, in my mind I was a cowboy. I loved the Old West, and so by the time I started thinking about writing, long about junior high, I wrote stories of the Old West. When I got serious about it, several people I looked up to, my mom included because she was a published author, said, the West is dead, Westerns are dead, you'll never make any money writing those things, don't write a Western. So guess what? I listened to them and spent years trying to figure out what else to write. When all the time cowboys, sheriffs, bad guys in black hats and good guys were stalking through my mind, and they wouldn't go away and leave me alone. I floundered. And then one day, like a dam bursting and like that, you know, a little voice in my head shouted loudly enough for me to finally hear it. It said, write Westerns, you doof. That's what you love, write them. Who cares if they sell? Right, that's what I do, I decided. And that little voice in my head said, you go, girl. All right, then and there I was off to the races. And it's true, my characters sat on my shoulders and whispered their story in my ear. So I had to type really fast just to keep up with them. The last thing I'm going to impart is don't be afraid of word count. For some reason, I do anyway, have a little editor in there saying it's not long enough, it's too short, it's this, it's that. You need 70,000, you need 100,000 words. Well, that's probably my magazine background. Don't worry about count restrictions, just write it. Just write it. And write the minutia, because I would tend to leave some of this out. I wrote a story the other day, and part of it was my characters were writing, this is 1867, I think, we're riding down the street in this old place that had only adobes, and the plaster at the bottom where the wall meets the ground, the plaster was starting to peel up. I could see it, but I thought, oh, no, my word count. I went, yeah, I'm going to include that. So I added the part where the stucco was starting to peel up from the range. You know, it worked a whole lot better. So, I want to thank you all for being here today, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to come listen to me. And I hope you take at least one of these ideas and learn from them, because I've already made all the mistakes. Thank you very much. But I'm successful, and I still haven't figured out what that means, because eventually I listened and took to heart what people wiser than me have said. I applied their wisdom to what I was writing and have become a better writer. And isn't that the whole idea, to become better? Thank you.